Hey everybody, it's Bill Cousins. We are at the National Cancer Prevention Workshop. Today we're going to welcome Representatives Debbie Dingell and Fred Upton, both from Michigan, and both sponsors for National Cancer Prevention Day, the National Cancer Prevention Workshop, and the United States Bipartisan Cancer Prevention Caucus. And I just want to say, when Debbie initiated that, it's really, everybody meets for that caucus, and it seems a little crazy at first, but I get so much mail from people that are grateful that you both show up and you're part of the process. So many people with sick families, sick children, they're really, really grateful, and I just want to thank you for putting yourselves out there in that way. You've been instrumental in saving lives, and we're very grateful. So the reason we wanted to talk to you today is that you're both sponsors of the legislation for PFAS to clean up the Great Lakes, and I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about it. I was wondering if we could start out by defining what PFAS is, the impact on communities, and some of the negative impacts of those chemicals, if we could just start the discussion there.
Fred, you're my senior.
No, well.
He's older than I am.
Barely. I got my hair cut, so it's I even look younger today. Well, Bill, first of all, it's a delight to be with you. Cancer is important, not only to the two of us, but really the whole Congress. We've seen this bipartisan effort for a long time, maybe more than just about any other. I mean, quite frankly, tell me a family that hasn't been impacted by a death of some type of cancer. There are none. I mean, absolutely none, which is tragic. But I got to tell you, a few years ago, most members of the Congress, including me, never even heard of the term PFAS. It was something that tragically we found in our backyard in Michigan, in a lot of different places that was literally thousands of times higher than the accepted level. Found out that EPA didn't even actually have a level, which is one of the reasons why Debbie and I joined together to try and prod EPA to tell us what the standard ought to be. And sadly, particularly around military bases, we saw PFAS because it's in the foam, the firefighting foam, and thus used for training at all these different airports, particularly military installations. It would get into that groundwater and it would never come out. And then we found that it led to, underweight babies, real cancer-causing things. And for me, the real wake-up call was when tragically we found an old paper company, I think, that had closed down back, literally 50 years ago, had contaminated the city municipal water wells, and got off the plane going into the August break, call from my sheriff and others saying, Fred, you won't believe what these PFAS levels are. Can you help? And I said, we got to put out the word right away. And I drove up outer edge of my district, not on the way home at all, got in touch with our governor's office, put a command center, and literally that night we were going door to door with police, small community just outside of Kalamazoo, but literally with police cars, with the speakers on top of the cars. Don't drink the water. Don't use it for your vegetables. Don't use it for your ice, for your coffee, for your infant formula. And for months, we literally had to pass out water at school and at churches for people, bottled water for folks to use until we could actually change the hookup from the city of Parchment to the city of Kalamazoo to try and protect those folks. But tragically, this is an issue now that certainly we in Michigan know a lot about, certainly our committee in a bipartisan basis, and we have a caucus, but we've now passed legislation in the House. Hopefully the Senate can come along. We know that if we can get it to the president's desk, he's likely to sign it.
Great news. I'm sorry we have to go through this, but I'm grateful to both you and Debbie for your leadership. This is, and not only working together, but I believe this is really one of the most important solutions for cancer prevention. And I love that, you both have been able to work together to do this extraordinary thing and help with this. Did you want to add anything to that, Debbie? Did you want to add anything?
Let me just build on what Fred has said. First of all, again, Bill, thank you for all the work that you do. And I'm always glad to do things with Fred because we do work together very closely on many, many things that impact people. PFAS doesn't look at someone and think they're Republican or a Democrat. Actually, PFAS doesn't look at anybody. And PFAS is a crisis in this country, and too many people don't know it. PFAS is a man-made chemical, came out of the Manhattan Project, and it is known as, it's called a forever chemical. You can't get rid of it. We cannot, and that's what's so scary. 98% of us have some level of PFAS in our blood. It's in more than 2,000 communities in our state, in Michigan. It's been found in 100 communities. And Fred was talking about the drinking water standard. Every year we keep saying, when are you going to set the drinking water standard? And they keep saying that it's going to come. And actually, a Republican governor in our state, Rick Snyder, we take water seriously in Michigan, appointed a PFAS scientific advisory committee. And the findings that we made, and they set a drinking water standard for Michigan, is actually more stringent than the guideline that EPA currently has for PFAS in your drinking water. 200 million Americans probably are drinking water right now with PFAS in it. And as Fred said, we know that it has harmful impact. We know that it can cause cancer in people. And that's why we did get the PFAS action bill through the House. It was a bipartisan bill, which is wonderful when those things happen. And I would say to people who are listening to us today, PFAS is in so many things that you don't even think about. It is, I'm a lousy cook. I needed Teflon pans. Teflon's had PFAS in it. PFAS is in our makeup. There's been a new study this year warning us that it's in many kinds of makeup. But I went and looked at my makeup. It's not labeled anywhere. It's in food storage containers that you get from a restaurant when you're picking up the food. How many of us have done that during pandemic? It's in our socks. So we are working very hard to educate people where PFAS is as well. That's why Fred and I are working so closely on PFAS Action Act, but other bills, because this is a forever chemical that is in too many places, and we haven't begun the cleanup of it, and we need to prevent it from being used in many products that we're using.
Let me just ask you this, because this is definitely epidemic. How are you and Fred working together really in Michigan because you're so ahead of the curve of everybody on this issue? Do you have anything you can share with us about the way you're working together on this?
A lot of it is awareness. And again, just a few years ago, and I would bet that if you did a poll today, most people, a majority of folks wouldn't know what PFAS is, or even that it's harmful and can lead to cancer, et cetera. So that's why, we had a good vote in the House. It sets the stage for the Senate. We're hoping that the defense bill, when it gets done, will have resources for PFAS, because that cleanup's got to start. But, our governor a number of years ago, former Governor Snyder, actually required every municipal water supply, even those under 10,000 residents, had to check for PFAS. And that sent the word out. So that's now, it's part of the Michigan equation, I guess you could say. And he told me, and Debbie as well, that he told other governors, this is something you better get your hand on, because if maybe you haven't heard of it now, this was to the National Governors Association, but I can assure you that down the road you are. So, it's one step at a time.
Can you tell me about the types of cancers you're hearing about through these exposures and the risk to?
We don't know the specific ones, but we know that they're cancer causing, and that's one of the reasons why we prodded the EPA to really help us. Not the scientists here, but help us. Tell us what's the maximum that people can take. and let's identify it, and let's, be able to get some of this stuff out of the waste stream where it gets into the groundwater supplies.
Right.
Bill, there have been studies that show the most common causes of cancer from PFAS are kidney and testicular. But more and more research is being done every day, and they find out more and more. So that's why we're working so hard to keep it out of products. And think about it. PFAS is in the blood of 98% of the people in this country. You can't get rid of it. There's no way to get rid of it in your blood.
And it's unnecessary and preventable. That's the thing that drives me crazy, that there are ways that we can do this, and certainly the two of you have done so. We, Rob Balad, who's on our board here, is the storyline in Dark Waters, and he wrote the book Exposure and his experience on PFAS. And that's how I first learned about it. But it's really amazing. And the fact that you've not only identified ways to get your arms around it is incredible, and could not be more grateful for you. Is there a strategy to clean this up? Is there a way of cleaning this up in the Great Lakes, or is that possible?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, we have to identify it. But in the smaller infrastructure bill, and as we talk, there's a lot of debate that's going on right now in Washington for sure. There was a bipartisan infrastructure bill that was actually a direct result of an organization that Debbie and I both belong to that is called the Problem Solvers Caucus. Nearly 60 members, equally divided, Republicans and Democrats. They have a good number here in Michigan. Debbie and I she might have been a member before I was. I'm on the Republican side. I'm one of the vice chairs. But in fact, in that blueprint that passed the Senate last August, 69-30, it includes $10 billion for PFAS cleanup. Another 15, again, another issue but close to our hearts in Michigan, of course, is the lead issue, dating back to Flint, and now, as we talk, Benton Harbor, but other communities around the country as well. There's $15 billion in there for lead line cleanup, $10 billion for PFAS. So this is what I would consider a good start of where we want to go. And hopefully we're going to get this bill to the president's desk pretty darn soon.
It's amazing how far you've come, because I know in not so distant past, there were no solutions. There's nobody tackling this. There was nobody looking at this. And so the two of you have been so critical in really advancing this. And I know many, many people are grateful. I hear from them and appreciate your work. People often don't understand how public health works, and they're just different tools than what we see in the hospital or in our doctor's office. And the fact that you have legislation and policies and best practices to try to get around this issue is amazing, and I'm so grateful. I don't want to keep each of you all day. I could talk to both of you all day, but I just want to thank you for your leadership for the National Cancer Prevention Workshop, National Cancer Prevention Day, and the House Caucus on Cancer Prevention. You both are rock stars, and your leadership is really critical today.
Thanks for all you all do, and we'll do our best to have your back.
You do. Thanks, everybody. Thanks very much.
Engaged, advocate, be the voice you want for change. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie, for all you do. Thanks, Fred. Take care. Thank you for the time.
Thanks.
You bet.
Bye.